Hey, how you doing? Welcome back to Babbling Zoom. And it looks like a lot of people love Edgerunners. Uh like every time I look up, every time I just randomly jump on YouTube, my feed is kind of just like everyone's obsessed with this. This is a great game. This is a great anime, and everyone's now jumping on Cyberpunk. So, first off, I watched it. Yes, it is awesome. It is like one of the coolest things ever. But surprisingly, um, Edge Runners does something that anime hasn't done in a while. And in a way, it kind of Edge Runners in a way just took the concept of cyberpunk and the 80's and fully embraced it. Let me tell you that. So one of the coolest things about cyberpunk is just unforgivable, right? I know I saw of these uh one of these YouTubers had a moment where they were like, "Oh no, this is dangerous. Like why? Like you shouldn't be oh hey, here it is. The degenerate one. I didn't watch this. I didn't really watch this one yet. Um it's probably a joke. Let's be honest. Oh hey, here's another one that says it sucks. But um what Cyberpunk does, what Edgerunners does, is something surprising. It actually goes back to the 80's and the OVA moment of anime, where anime was allowed to just breathe and do whatever they wanted. Let me explain this way, right? We have this horrible situation right now with anime, right? We are stuck in a cycle of fandom. That's the best way of explaining it. We are stuck in an age of fandom. Fandom's problem is that it will center on specific tropes to make tons of stuff. We are stuck in this whole uh shonen obsession of action isekai, uh ridiculous overpowered boys and school hijinks and completely misproportionate. Can I have can I see one of these things, please? No. All right. Completely um unproportionate women, overly sexualized, uh a host of random waifus. What? Um Depravity. I'm saying this like it's a bad thing. It kind of is a bad thing, let's be real. But we all kind of just let it go because Japan. Um what else? What other randomness is there? Yeah, the overpowered. Well, no, that's not what I was looking for. Am I looking more for this? The overpowered guy. Um just constant tropes that now I don't know that overdo it. Like we are stuck in this cycle where an anime is good when the story is about an underaged what was it? The story is about an underaged uh group of children, high school maybe, um mostly, where we just kind of invest in this love story or this harem most of the time, where we have to focus on this one kid who's stupidly overpowered and the random amount of 15 or younger or age 15 or younger girls that he's going to get with. Meanwhile, we get to watch them in overly sexualized clothes, uh, We always get the random episode where everyone's in a bikini. You know, anime. And to be honest, what got anime popular in America wasn't these tropes. We didn't have an anime where our entire concept was one person is overpowered and this is our no-name protagonist that we imbue ourselves with. Like, I'm saying that weird word. And then completely fashion ourselves around like multiple women with double D or triple D accessories. You know, um, we never had that before. In the 80's, anime was different. The anime that made it to America was different. It was a different class. Everyone knows Akira. And if you really look at Akira, is it really the same as what we have now? No, not really. Yes, it's about high school kids, but it's more about the workings of the adults, the government, messing around, messing with kids, and a small group of a gang just caught up in the mess of it. No one's overly sexualized for the sake of ooh waifu. They're just girls. They're just high school girls caught up in a situation. The moment where there's a situation where there is any some form of nudity, it is in a violent way. Uh, we're not there to look at that. You know, it's a visceral reaction of, oh gosh, why did they do that to her? They need to get their asses kicked. That's the general point of that moment, right? For 80's, what am I looking for? 80's was a perfect time for the concept of cyberpunk, right? Around this time, sci-fi is just getting deeper and awesome, and like, I don't know how to describe it. It's just the grittiness. We started going from space and exploring the world to what is the nastiness, what will um capitalism do to America or the world? And everyone started exploring this. This is the whole thing of Judge Dredd. If you actually, I never read the comics, but that's basically the joke of Judge Dredd is Britain's view of what a capitalist America would look like in the future. Corrupt. And I think it's William Gibson's Necromancer is really kind of the birth that kind of created this, you know. You follow that these concepts of like hacking, um robots, prosthetics, all these things, a corrupt government, controlled by corporations, all these things kind of mirrored what was slowly happening in the 80's, and or the worries of what the 80's was bringing about, I should say. We started becoming more materialistic in the 90's, in the 80's. So, and there was this huge boom. Everyone was flourishing from it, even Japan. And thankfully they did, because that's that moment where companies were just shelling out money to animators. Like, make something. I don't care what it is, make something. Then the birth of the OVA started happening. And when they got to America, oh, we loved it. Because in a way, they were all influenced kind of by the same thing. This concept of America. Or at least that's what I saw that came to American shores. It was the stories were mature, devoid from what we had on TV. You know, uh, what do we have on TV? We had Saturday morning cartoons that told us what we should do and shouldn't do. Where GI Joe was all about defeating a bad guy without hitting anything. It's the stormtrooper situation. GI Joe and Cobra couldn't hit any person. They can aim for, well, but we are captivated by that. Here's a cartoon about war that really was more slapsticky and comedy. Thundercats, a story about a conflict where in the end they just told us life lessons. He-Man, a slapstick anime comedy about, animation comedy about protecting the planet from a skeleton dude, right? But in the end, no one died or suffered or anything. It's not like we asked for it. It's just this was the product of America. And then all of a sudden, anime starts slowly creeping in, breaking the rules that was established by the codes, right? And then all of a sudden, we started seeing actual deep storytelling that anime brought us, and the craziness and the old tropes of, mind you, of the time wasn't even known as anime. For us, it was in the 80s, it was just Japanese animation coming to American shores. We were like, what is going on? And what did they bring us? Cyberpunk. Along with all this other stuff, there was an influx of cyberpunk. There was an influx of sci-fi, just gritty American detective stories. What else? High school hijinks, but not in the way that was lewd. These were kids with just standard proportions. I'm showing that one. And if they wanted to go slightly lewd, about a little ridiculously saucy, they did. But they still kept it really good. These weren't little girls in high school doing things. These were grown women. That's what the story was. They focused on adults, right? They focused on sci-fi with actual adult women running around, probably like 20-something-year-olds, running around beating things up. Let me go back to Bubblegum Crisis. These were all working women. They weren't in school doing anything. They didn't have ridiculous proportions, right? They were standard women, just simple. What was the other one? And the violence also came with that. Angel Cop. Surprisingly, amazingly, Angel Cop, the one I just showed earlier, Bubblegum Crisis, and AD Police are all in the same universe. All different tones. All basically in a cyberpunk future, right? But what did all these things have? A mature view on the world without being slightly pedophilic. So without being pedophile, without that, what I'm saying, without harping on the fact that it's little girls. One of my favorite animes, oh, I can't believe I blanked on the name. See how that hurts when you remember an anime? Oh gosh, what was this one? Why am I blanking on you? See, now I gotta click on it. Project Echo. There we go. That's even better. Project Echo alone was, I think, created as a joke to make fun of the constant things that happen in anime. That's the tropes of its time, right? Which is funny because of its time, a lot of anime didn't really harp so hardly on the schoolgirl aspect. Yes, there was a schoolgirl aspect for certain shows, but most of the time it really was about spaceships and giant attacks and specialized calls for your attacks and stuff, right? So, mentioning all this, what does the Cyberpunk Edgerunners show do that's so close to it? Well, let's see if it's on here. Surprisingly, it really mirrors a lot of the 80s anime. Uh, we're introduced to a kid in high school, fine, but the story's not about high school. It's about the street. It's about dealing with the streets. When it comes to violence, there is a lot of ultra violence, which a lot of anime of the time harped on it. There's this great video. Ooh, I wonder if I could find it. There's this great video. Wait, let me go to YouTube. Where they compare old versus new. There we go. I think it's Forgotten Relics. They're just going to show a commercial, of course.
Explore new solutions. Grammarly suggestions. Catch. If you're a fan of Hansa.
So, Forgotten Relics, go check it out. It's actually some good stuff. Forgotten Relics shows the difference between how we approached Hunter x Hunter back in the 90s. Well, 90s, I'm saying 80s, but you know. But it's a difference between how we treated action and storytelling back in the day to now. And this kind of shows how we were like just really more brutal with a lot of the attack, a lot of the fighting. There's a change that happened where all of a sudden we tone it down. It's not as visceral. I mean, yeah. And the 80s stuff was even far more like that because they didn't have any restrictions. They were allowed to just go all out. Again, they were just given blank checks and say, go for it. Right? The other thing that Edgerunners does that surprised me and was kind of refreshing to see it back again was the lack of over sexualization. Yes, there was sexualization in the show. Don't get me wrong. Right? But it was designed to show the grittiness of the world as opposed to as a titillating fanboy type of thing where it was everyone still had correct proportions, everyone was still an adult, right? I mean, I don't care how you say it. Rebecca, we never really knew the age of Rebecca, but chances are she's probably an adult. If not, she's older, you know. She's probably like 19, 18, 19. I don't know, I didn't look it up. Probably should look it up, but I'm not going to look it up. Right? They don't ever do this in the anime, right? Why? You don't need to. 80s anime, when it came to nudity, uh kind of just relied on the shower scene or the relaxed nature of what the future might bring. The idea that we don't care about our body, like we don't care about hiding our bodies anymore. It's a strange thing to say about it, but there are some live action movies that also kind of hint at that. In Edgerunners, what you usually are what you see is basically, you know, everyone casually just working with no clothes. Simple as that. There's this one anime. Golf Force. And this entire anime is just about an entire, it's a war between two races. One race was just all women and an alien race, all trying to fight to control this one particular piece of planet, this one galaxy, or not galaxy, this one solar system, right? Simple as that. And I think the character's name is not Pris. Oh, I'm thinking about the American version. Can't find it. Well, you see this girl with the star? There's a moment in the show where she just has a shower and then kind of just walks out with nothing on. No one really pays attention to it. It's just a moment where they're having a conversation about the update of what's going on the ship and what's going to happen on the mission. Simple as that. Maybe one person mentions it, but other than that, everyone else is just like, whatever. This is a common thing that keeps happening in 80s anime where it was just like, it was fine to show some form of nudity because in the end, it was really just a moment for the character to reflect or relax, or that's it. It wasn't about, it was the subtleness of fan service without being overly sexualized. And for those who want to watch this, watch this. This is amazing. I love this. There's other continuations of it. The first one's the best. So, what does Edgerunner do? It goes back and looks at the 80s, not just the cyberpunk, but not just the ultra violence. It takes all of it. It takes all that was great about the 80s when it came to anime, the freedom that that animators had in Japan to do whatever they want, to show an actual an adult story, and they did it. That's why you are all freaking out about this. This is why everyone's talking about it, because it went back and truly became an anime cyberpunk story. That's it. It bucked the trend. It didn't do the sad tropes that are current anime. It didn't do schoolgirl or schoolboy with harem. It didn't do any of that stuff. It gave us pure, beautiful, action-packed, gory OVAs. That the thing that got America hooked on anime from the get-go. It went back. It looked at all the stuff we know, Bubblegum Crisis. It looked at what was the other one? Ninja Scroll. Oh, those who watch Ninja Scroll know what I'm talking about. It took all that awesome, greedy, nasty, raw awesomeness and then just gave it back with a trigger feel. That's why it's a good anime. Now, I'm hoping that if you loved Edgerunners, that you just go back and start watching stuff from the 80s and 90s. There's a huge catalog. There should be a way of finding all of it. But if you loved Edgerunners, chances are you'll love most of this stuff too. So have fun. There's a lot of anime, and you'll finally understand why when an old person says, oh, well, a Gen X person says this is good, but it was better back then, well, you understand why now, right? So, talk to you next time. Bye.